A patient or a consumer that comes in 3 times a year is not as valuable as a patient or consumer that comes in 6, 8, or 10 times a year. Members spend 44% more on average. If you think about your business and say, hey, I want to grow next year, do you really need more patients all the time, or do you need more memberships?
How did RepeatMD start, and what is it doing today?
So
I can guarantee you that you've seen this guy all over social media. We have Phil Sitter. What's up, brother? All right.
From serving tables to turning wellness practices into digital powerhouses. This week, we sit down with Phil Sitter, the visionary founder and CEO of RepeatMD.
if you believe that your mission is to transform patients' lives, then you should never let money be the reason why a patient can't get the transformation. So I'm not saying lower your cost to the point you're not making money. What I'm saying is if a patient wants to come in and that treatment plan is $4,000, not everyone has $4,000. You find a great financing option so that $4,000 treatment is only a few $100s a month for them across 24 months or 36 months.
When it comes to the different membership models, how does that actually reshape the patient's loyalty towards the business and then also their purchasing behavior?
It depends on the membership model itself. So let's talk about a few membership models.
Welcome to another episode of a Healthy Point of View podcast. I'm your host, Sam Tejada, and as usual, we're bringing experts from all over the world to talk about health, wellness, beauty, and mindset. Today, we bring our guest. He flies in all the way from Connecticut, New York area in the Northeast, but you see him all over the place, especially if you are in the wellness or aesthetic medicine business. I can guarantee you that you've seen this guy all over social media. His content is unbelievable. I don't even know how he does that type of production, but we're going to find out a lot of great stuff. But today's podcast is going to be primarily about memberships and subscriptions. Guys, we always hear all this stuff about memberships with Amazon, Netflix, Hulu, all the different apps. How does that relate in today's world, specifically for your business? We have the code crack over here, and we're going to go deep into talking about how to elevate your business with memberships and subscriptions. Today, we have the CEO and founder of RepeatMD. We have Phil Sitter. What's up, brother? All right. Brother, welcome to Healthy Point of View podcast.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Awesome, man. So, first I usually like to start off, for the viewers and listeners to really understand who Phil Sitter is, right?
Yeah.
But not the Phil Sitter of today.
Right.
The Phil Sitter of today, we see him on social media, and we want to know, who was Phil growing up, and how the heck did you get to where you're at today?
Yeah, so I'll start with where we're at today, and then I'll kind of rewind back. So today, RepeatMD is one of the fastest growing software companies in the health tech space. So we have 4,000 practices. We do a little over $2 billion in revenue. We have clients in all 50 states, clients in Canada, about 150 employees, and we've raised a bunch of capital to expand. But being in health tech today, like you said, the aesthetic and wellness industry, had no idea that I would ever end up in this space, right?
Wow.
Because going all the way back, I'm an immigrant from Vienna, Austria. My dad and I moved from Austria, not Australia, right? So no kangaroos. This is Austria next to Germany. And we moved here, and I'm a 5th generation restaurateur. So, my family's been in the restaurant business for 5 generations. So when I turned 18, I had to open up a restaurant. So opened up a small German restaurant, because no one knew where Austria was, so we called it a German restaurant. So this was right during like the craft beer boom. I don't know if that was big down here, but like everybody was in craft beers, so I brought in a bunch of German beers and monastery brewed beers, like beers like brewed by monks, the oldest monasteries in the world. Beer was actually invented by monks, by the way.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I did not know that.
Yeah, so it was invented by monks. But anyways, and so we did, schnitzels and sausages, and we had people in lederhosen, and like it looked like Oktoberfest if you get that visual.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's where I started in business, really, where I started with a small restaurant. That restaurant got really famous. We expanded 13 times. We won the #1 German Restaurant in America award like 4 years in a row. We expanded to multi-concept, multi-unit. I've started getting the franchise business, so I understand that business. So at the heart of it, I'm a small business owner. I had 1,200 employees during my restaurant chain days. And during that time, I really learned a ton about leadership and marketing, event production, all of those things that would eventually serve me well. And how I got in software is as I started to franchise, I said, hey, like, I need to create something for my franchisees to help with retention, getting their customers to come in more often. So what we did is we built an app that was like Starbucks rewards, but alcohol. And so I
Mm.
went to all the alcohol commissions and got approved to have rewards that were alcohol based, which was really hard to do. It took me like 16 months of like legal battles to get that
Wow.
because, as you can imagine, over drinking, ID verification, all of that.
Right.
And when I cracked that code, it was so hard to crack. I was like, okay, well, why don't I just license this out to other people?
Okay.
Right. And so I built something for my franchise, but then I said, well, this was so hard. Let's see if other people would want it. And, in our first year in that business, we expanded into 500 different restaurant groups.
Oh, wow.
And so as that was happening and my daughter was born, I just realized, like, you know what, maybe 6 generations of restaurants is too much, right? I'm 5, but I just had my daughter. She'd be the 6th generation restaurateur. So I was like, what if I just sell everything and go all in on software? And so
Mm.
that's what I did. I sold everything and I went all into software, and I felt, as though that I had my own capital to really expand. And it was really like an incredible story until COVID happened. And
Oh,
then all of a sudden I had no restaurants, which I was lucky for that, but I had no more paying customers, right?
wow.
All my restaurant like couldn't pay me anything. No one knew what was going to happen. So we gave away our software for free and started doing all those print QR codes.
Okay.
We did like 10,000 print QR codes. We did it all for free, rang 50,000 a month in Google Ads. And we were
Wow.
thinking one day when things would, bounce back,
Right.
maybe they would become paying customers of ours. And during that time, I was looking for other industries that are loyalty software at the heart of it. That's what it was. Would it be applicable to anything else? So we talked to school districts about getting kids, rewards for their attendance, because attendance drives behavior and behavior drives test scores, and that's how they get their funding. We talked to country clubs, auto mechanics, car dealerships,
Wow.
a med spa, and a few others. And that was the idea of like, how did the idea of RepeatMD generate is like through the whole COVID situation, finding another industry that was looking for retention, using rewards as a way to introduce their services and, all the stuff that we do today at RepeatMD.
Wow. Amazing, man.
Yeah.
Talk about, Steve Jobs always had a quote. His quote was, "You can only connect the dots looking backwards, not
Yeah.
forward." And what you just did, and the way you opened up, you connected those dots from
Yeah.
exactly where you're at today, all the way back, which is amazing. God works in a certain way to make those things happen. So, you come from the restaurant business,
hmm
which I've never been, besides working as a dishwasher and a cook in a restaurant when I was a teenager,
Yeah.
which I hated, by
Yeah.
the way,
Yeah.
which motivated me to do what I do
Right.
today. But the restaurant business, from what I hear on a business perspective, it's not an easy business. It's a very tough business, right?
Yeah. You're working off like 10% net margins, sometimes less, maybe sometimes a little bit more, but it's like a high volume, very competitive. 80%, 90% go out of business within, the first couple of years, and the next cohort 80% in, a decade.
Oh,
So, and it's also one of those things that I'm sure you've been to a restaurant that was super hot, like everybody wanted to go there, and then one day just faded away because new
yeah,
restaurants opened, right? So it's a very tough business to have longevity in.
I bet, I bet. So, talk to me a little bit about the hard part of that mindset shift of going from the restaurant business to then today where you're in the SaaS business, because
Yeah.
now you're in technology.
hmm
The number one, most people don't really envision them being where they're at today versus where they were at before. So, what was that mindset shift that you had to do?
I think any time that you try something new, and you've done this so many times, is like you have to have a beginner's mindset, right? Like you have the lessons, like the lessons I took from my restaurant days was a lot of leadership lessons, right? I had 1,200 employees. A lot of them were not destined to be in the restaurant business. Just like, when you were a teenager, you kind of go there for a little while and then you go somewhere different, right? So like you have to learn a lot about people, how to get them to show up, how to get them to play full out, how to represent your brand, your standards, all of that. But then you're also getting into a new industry. Like for me, restaurants and software is a very different industry, right? And so you have to really come into that to be okay to be an amateur at something. It's like I was a veteran. I mean, 5 generations in the restaurant industry, right? So it's like I was a veteran in restaurants and I was an absolute amateur in software, but I had to understand that, right? And when you're successful in one category, it's really interesting to be an amateur at a total other because you're not used to not knowing, right? And if you come into it thinking that you do, you're just going to get your ass handed to you. And so for me, I had to really like almost do a part-time job of just learning and taking it in, because money doesn't solve problems when it comes to you being a beginner at something. If anything, it actually makes it worse. Because if you try to fix your problems because you have a little bit of money, right? Try to take a shortcut, you actually don't learn, and then you're just reliant on everyone.
That's the truth.
And so you have to, I was doing crazy hours, right? I was running my restaurant group, and then I would come home and I would work, and then I would wake up at 4, and from 4 to 8 I would like learn. And I wanted to really be involved because I was taking it very seriously. But I think the beginner's mindset of trying something new is like, it's very humbling, and it's the only way to jump into something new.
Yeah, but that learning never stops either, right?
No, it can't. I mean, think about today's world. I mean, AI is talked about all the time. Like, if you're not spending the time to even understand it, or how to play with it and how it's going to change the future, if you're kind of like, passive in it, then it's going to, like, things are going to get a lot tougher for you. Or you can just say, hey, let me just play with this a few hours a week or an hour a day, or just begin to learn in it. But, even with AI, I find even with myself, like, it's like that jump off point where you're like, another thing to learn, another thing to do, even if I think about you, like doing this podcast, like there had to be that moment for you where you were like, okay, what kind of camera do I need? What do I need to do?
Oh yeah.
How do I get people, like, how do you even download it? Like what, and that just takes so much activation energy, especially when you're already busy.
Yeah.
I
get it 100%, because, even myself going from a fireman to then, getting into the IV hydration space with $500 in my back pocket, to then eventually growing it into this was supposed to be a side hustle, right? So then being on the pharmacy side, over 4,000 doctors, to exactly how you said, to podcasting.
Yeah.
You go back to like about 3-4 years ago, dude, I was never even on camera.
Yeah.
I had to get on camera to continue to grow my brand, the company's brand, etc. So, but I enjoy it. It's a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
You got to make the best out of it. But learning is the most important part. You know, really collaborating with others, picking their brain, figuring out how it works. So, all right. So let's talk about RepeatMD, right? Because I see you at some of these conferences, man. And the one that always rings a bell is the AMP Spa.
Right.
Myself and the team, Los was there, and you get this, you're doing the Louis Vuitton giveaways, you bring in the crowd, and it's not exactly, it's not just about the software that you have. I mean, you go into the marketing and you connect with the people to then get on your platform.
Right.
But I want to really understand, why RepeatMD? How did RepeatMD start, and what is it doing today?
Yeah. So the way that it started was from this concept when we were looking to create rewards in another industry. What industry needed more awareness for other treatment services offerings that they had? And if you think about aesthetics and wellness, one of the biggest problems within the space today is you'll have a person that comes in for something almost prescriptive. They'll come in and they're like, I want this. That could be, I want an IV, or I want cryo, or I want Botox, whatever it is, right? They're coming in for something. And the problem is the industry itself, like, does not do a great job introducing that patient or that consumer to all the services that practice has to offer. Right. It's like, no, we do 20 things, but they typically just come in for a thing.
Right.
And that practice doesn't introduce them to all the other things. And that patient could spend so much more, right? And so when we came up with this, we said, well, hey, what if we just get rid of points? Like, points suck. We never use it at the restaurants, because what are points? Well, number one, as a consumer, you don't even know what points are. Right. I hate points. 100 points equals 50 cents. 100 points equals $1. Like, you don't even know how to do point conversion, right? So like, you don't know what it is. And at best, what it is like a discount program, right? It's like, you're just giving people money back.
Right.
Okay, well then just give people money back. You know what I mean?
Right.
But in this industry, in aesthetics and wellness and longevity, you can actually use rewards as a way to introduce and educate and incentivize patients with all the other services that you have to offer.
I love that.
Right? So if I'm coming in for a thing, well, why not give a Myers IV? Or why not give a free B12 shot? Or why not XYZ? Right? 20% towards this service here.
Right.
Because at the minimum, the patient earns it and they're like, hey, what is this? And that's a conversation people are really like willing to have, right? Practice and practitioner, everyone is like willing to have the conversation of like, oh, this is this, and they're excited about it. But this industry itself, like, we don't like to go out and sell the patient or sell the consumer anything.
Right.
But it's like this really weird paradox of most people that are in this space like have this incredible heart of service where they want to transform patients' lives, but they don't want to feel like they're selling a patient.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, that dichotomy is like, if you really want to transform people's lives and you need to learn sales because that helps people, right? Because it helps people to like motivate them to like take action.
Right.
Right. And so I noticed that there was this wedge, and where RepeatMD really started was rewards, introducing, educating, incentivizing patients with services, treatments, and offers within that. And since, now 3 years later does way more than that, but at the heart of it, it was rewards app, right?
Okay.
And now you can, sell your memberships through it. We have embedded patient financing. So it's not a $4,000 treatment, it's $130 a month. Right, which converts way more patients.
You guys have like a finance company you partnered up with?
Affirm,
Okay.
yeah. So we're Affirm's largest partner in the space,
Nice.
and so again, why did I choose Affirm? Well, Care Credit obviously is in the space. There's a lot of others. I just wanted one practice fee, like one simple fee for any credit score that gets approved, right? Because if you think about small business owner, I don't know what this person's credit score is. And so if a person comes in with a 650 and 24 months, which is not a bad credit score, but it's like 24 months for 650, you're paying 14 to 20%.
Right.
And it's like, well, sometimes you pay 3%, sometimes you pay 14%, sometimes 12. And so people don't feel comfortable about even presenting financing.
Right.
And so with Affirm, I said, hey, one consistent fee for any score that gets approved. So ours is 3.99. And then on top of that, it's done right there on the patient on their phone, which is intimate, right? It's like my own experience.
Or they get the approval process right.
Yeah,
on the
right
front.
there. And you don't feel weird as a patient, whatever your level of affluence is, like using Affirm versus like, hey, can I get a loan application?
Right. Loan applications, sit on this computer where you're
Yeah,
like isolated.
right. So it's like all of those things. So now what we're obsessive with started with the rewards. We're obsessive with the patient experience. How do we bring a modern experience that they would get at e-com or like the biggest brands in the world in local practices so patients can discover treatments, they can buy them from anywhere. Our number one purchasing hour is 9 p.m. at night, right? So it's like 9 p.m. at night. Well, why? Well, because the kids are asleep and I'm thinking about the wedding that I'm attending. And what treatment, or you know what, I've got this thing going, or in my case, I'm going to the US Open and I'm gonna have a hangover the next day, so let me go ahead and get an IV scheduled.
Right.
And you just pull out your phone and you buy, you book, you do all that, and it's a beautiful experience. It's not some like dated experience. It
Right.
represents the brand well.
I love that. So let's talk about memberships in general.
Yeah.
I mean, we live in a world of subscriptions.
Yep.
Tell the listeners and viewers what's happening in today's world when it comes to memberships and subscriptions. Because, I go on social media, man, and I forget the name of the app, but there's the man on the street that goes and walks up to people and says, hey, do you know how many subscriptions you have? And most of people are like scratching their head, I don't know. And then they say, well, download this app. And then all of a sudden, all these different subscriptions come up. And they're like, oh, wow, I didn't know I had 55 subscriptions I'm paying on a monthly basis, which... on a business standpoint, some people look at memberships as like, oh, well, people sign up and then, they don't even show up and you're just making money. But there's a heck of a lot more when it comes to memberships. But
Right.
I want you to go into the details of like what's happening in today's world when it comes to memberships versus the other typical business models that are out there.
So I think that it's well said and well understood that memberships are everywhere, right? Like that's how a lot of millennials do shopping. That's how they do budgeting. Especially budgeting, right? They think about, okay, lifetime is this, my practice or IV clinic I go to is this, my patches, like I do the NAD patches, right?
Okay,
And that's like
right.
$300 a month, right? So that's that, and that's taken care of. And then I have my skincare or my pill. So we think about all these things as subscription models. And then we have our membership models, in entertainment, et cetera. And that's just how we buy today, right? We buy through convenience, we buy through loyalty, and most importantly for the practice, and this is like the real part of memberships, it's creating predictable recurring revenue, monthly recurring revenue, right? MRR. And why is that important? Well, do you want to start at zero every month? Right? You're here in South Florida. I used to be in Houston. What happens if a hurricane comes? Right? Business.
You're out of business.
You're out of business for how long? 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, 6 weeks? Right? And so that's an example. But the reality is having predictable revenue is absolute key, right? It's having the revenue come in every single month, but also having a membership that's valuable. So when I first started doing my membership talks, and this was maybe 3 years ago, about 20-30% of the room had memberships. Now I do the same talk, about 70 and 80% of the room does memberships. The only difference is everyone's doing them, but they're not really creating valuable memberships, so they struggle with people buying them. And it's like, no, memberships are not this weird, like, gotcha, right? Like you mentioned, like people buying memberships and people don't come in and use them, and now we've made money. It's like, that's not the point, right? The point is a patient or a consumer that comes in 3 times a year is not as valuable as a patient or consumer that comes in 6, 8, or 10 times a year. And members spend 44% more, members spend 44% more on average in a given year. And so if you think about your business and say, hey, I'm going to grow next year. Well, if I know this group spends 44% more than this other group, do you really need more patients all the time? Or do you need more memberships? Do you need more members, right? Because when they do come in, you can do things like membership-based pricing, which is discount other services for your VIPs, for your members. And now you're upselling and cross-selling other sides of your business, right? And so there's a lot of different ways, a lot of tactics to sell more memberships. There's tactics to structure the proper membership programs. And in this space, especially if you're talking about wellness, the number one best-selling membership right now, and it's like, if you're not doing this, you're crazy, are GLP-1 memberships, weight loss memberships, and now peptide memberships, right? And it's like, if you're in weight loss and you're not doing a weight loss memberships, you're insane, because it's like, in terms of revenue, so we do 200 million a year in memberships. In terms of revenue, it's by far the highest in revenue.
Wow. So what would you say is like, and I know you can be a little bit biased because you're in the industry, but what company would be like the godfather of memberships in your opinion? Any company.
So the godfather, and I'm not saying they do this well. I'm just saying that they started with membership. They built 1,000 locations off of this. And this is more in the aesthetic space, was Ideal Image. So Ideal Image, largest chain to ever exist in this space, over 1,000 locations very quickly. And they had a yearly membership. And what their yearly membership was $200 for the year, right? And that gave you 20, 40, 60% off of everything. Right. It's like, if you buy this $200 a year membership, you get access to better pricing. So they were printing money with this $200 membership, right? You really got nothing for but access to better pricing. But the amount of loyalty and retention that created was insane, right? Because they got all this money up front, right? And then that money locked in the membership. But from there, you don't think about going to any other business, because why? Well, I'm getting 40% off of laser hair removal. Or I'm getting 60% off of IV therapy or whatever. Like, you don't even think about going to another place because you're like, I already paid. Like, American Express Platinum card, right? You pay $500 for the year. Well, now, like, you're going to go get your benefits. You've committed. You've made a commitment that you are going to be shopping with them because you want your value. And so they're really like, I mean, and why even consider them godfather? They were doing this 10 years ago when no one was even thinking about this.
Yeah, that's I'll tell you, when you look at like the membership model, there's a lot that goes into it when you start wanting to launch that in your business, which consists of things like, for example, how are you going to market that? How are you going to get your team members to actually properly sell the membership? Sell the value of the membership. So, when you talk about the aesthetics industry, the aesthetics is kind of, I would say it's divided into 2 different parts. You got like the med spas, and then you got the plastic surgeons. Do you see a significant difference between both of those when it comes to memberships?
So plastic surgeons will do memberships if they have like a med spa or wellness clinic attached. And it's brilliant for them because, you don't want to come see your plastic surgeon again, right? Unless you're getting another surgery, right? If I go get a nose job, it's not good news if I'm coming back, right?
You don't want to pull the Michael
No.
Jackson stuff.
Yeah, right. So that's not good news, but it's great where if you come in and you can introduce your patient to like, hey, we have this VIP membership. This includes these services, XYZ. So that's when I see it with plastics. With med spas, I see it a ton. Wellness clinics, I see it a ton. And like I said, there's a lot of different tactics, and we can get into a lot of tactics on, why to sell memberships or how to sell memberships effectively. But again, it's really that recurring model of just every month the money coming in, the guarantee of loyalty, right? These members are about 80% more loyal than non-members, which is kind of obvious. Like, why would you buy a membership to a place that you're not going to be loyal to? Right. But I've seen it as just the greatest predictor of growth.
So let's talk about that loyalty side of it. So when it comes to the different membership models, how does that actually reshape the patient's loyalty towards the business, and then also their purchasing behavior of how they actively purchase things inside of your business?
So it depends on the membership model itself. So let's talk about a few membership models. So one model that's when I tell you about the models, we'll talk about how to make them effective at the same time. Just to add some value. So for example, tier-based memberships. So tier-based membership, it might be like a bronze, silver, gold. It comes with a choice of these 3 or 4 treatments per month, right? Or sometimes you see, in this space, an IV membership, okay? But a lot of the times what happens with these memberships, like a single treatment membership, is the churn rate or the cancel rate's really high. Well, why is that? If I would got an IV membership, what happens if I go on vacation for 3 months? Then I've got 3 IVs. And I'm like, I don't need 3 IVs. So what do? I cancel it. I try to use them. And then I maybe or maybe not, you sell me again. And so that's a problem. So a better model for that specific one is the tier, but you can choose different treatments. So it's an IV or red light therapy or a B12 shot, or you get the point. So if I stack something, 3-4 months go by, then I can say, oh, you know what? Let me get these 2-3 things. And it's kind of fun, right? Because it's like, you saw girl math where it's like, I already paid for it type of thing. And so it's like, oh, well, now it's kind of fun. And guess what? You need to be super loose with your terms. And this is like a hot take for people. People are like, no rollovers. Okay, why would you want to screw over your customer? Hey, I was gone for 3 months and like no treatment rollovers, so I just gave you money for no reason. You know what? Let me give you a different take. Yes, rollovers. Bring a friend with you. Hey, guess what? Bring a family member with you. Because sometimes people do these terms of like, hey, not like rollovers or not, but they're like only for you. Well, what do you mean only for me? Why not bring a friend? Because now a new person is coming into that practice with you. And now you can sell them on something.
Absolutely.
And so you want to be loose and you want to do things that are like a VIP experience. So you do events and parties and soirees, all these sorts of things. So that's tier-based memberships, right? One of the most important tactics of any membership is not only the things you're going to get, but the perks and benefits. And I see this missing a lot. You have a tier-based program or an IV membership, but you forget the perks. Every month, every quarter, right? Every time they come in, something, right? That could be 20% off of all of the other treatments because you're a member. That could be every 90 days you get a body scan. That can be a nutrition plan, right? What are the perks of being a member other than the thing that I'm paying for? And it's a really interesting opportunity, especially like milestone loyalty bonuses. For example, if you're a member for 60 days, you earn this new reward. So that's baked into our system, but just in general, generally speaking, well, why? Because these are your best customers. And if I introduce them to this new thing, they'll likely buy that too, right? And so that's one membership program called tier-based. There's others. I don't know if you want to get into those.
Yeah, let's get into them.
So I'll just go with 3. So that's tier-based. Another one, weight loss. Okay. So weight loss and peptides, you're not going to compete against hims and hers in the online pharmacies, right? Like that race to the bottom, that customer's not your customer. Like, so like where people get it wrong is like they start discounting that membership to try to compete with that. It's like, no. That game is not winnable. Okay. The game that is winnable are for the people that want a complete experience. And why that's important is because you can charge a lot more. Anywhere between $300, talk about like semaglutide, $300 to $500 a month, right? Tirzepatide can be all the way to $750 a month. Well, what are
Right.
people paying for? They're paying for that personal experience. They're paying for coming in and not just getting the medication, but also the body scan, the nutrition plan, all the other layers that you can add to it,
Right.
the B12 shot, right? What are the things that you can add to make it not just a competitor of like, do you want online pharmacy or not, but it's a complete weight loss journey,
Right.
right? And what I see with weight loss is like, that's what people want if they're coming to you in person. They want a complete weight loss journey. Can you partner with a fitness trainer to create a nutrition plan? Can you partner with a fitness trainer to create a workout program at the same time? What can you do to add so much more value that people would be stupid to just, get the shot at home,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And so that's really important. And a sense of community is important. A lot of, like I mentioned this already, but a lot of times people don't think about doing member events. Members should be something, right? We talked about Amex, right? They have the Centurion Lounge or platinum member, black card member. Why not for you?
Right.
Why not have something once a quarter that it's like-minded individuals, a sense of community coming together? They can bring a friend and you do something. It could be, one thing I've seen really successful is even a virtual webinar once a month or every 2 months with all
Okay.
your members, and you bring in a speaker on a topic.
Nice.
What can you do to make it feel like you're a part of something, not just a monthly charge?
Right.
Right. And the final one that I think is really interesting, and you might like this one, is like a wellness bank or beauty bank. And these memberships are a certain dollar amount per month that just gets deposited like into a bank account, right? And in on our program, like actually is a savings account.
So they actually deposit money into that?
Yeah, every month. It's like anywhere between $100 to $300 a month.
Okay.
That gets withdrawn from their bank account and put onto their account. So they're saving up for a big purchase.
Right.
And because they're doing that, they also get all these other perks. And that's one of our most popular ones. So, GLP-1 programs, weight loss programs are number one in terms of revenue. In terms of retention and success, it's all beauty banks and wellness banks. So people are putting, not the tier-based ones. Tier-based ones actually, they do okay. But the beauty bank one, like you're withdrawing $200 a month from me, and I'm getting these larger wellness plans or treatment plans, et cetera, that I'm saving up towards. And because of that loyalty, you're giving me better pricing and perks. And
That's
so
pretty
that's a
cool,
really
man.
interesting
Especially
one.
on when you look at it from the business side, it's like that money's coming in. Yeah, it's a liability. It's sitting in your liability account, right?
Yeah, but it's like someone buying a gift card every month.
Right. Yeah, and as a
pretty good
business
plan.
owner, you can use that money, right, to do some
100%.
bigger marketing or whatever it is that you have to do to grow your business. So
Yes.
I like that. It's even like I heard like Starbucks, right? Their app.
Yep.
For you to actually put money on it. I don't know what it is because I don't use it, but it's like $20.
Yeah.
But a coffee
minimum $25
right.
upload.
There you go.
And now they're one of the largest banks in the world. They have $3 billion in cash.
That's crazy. Wow.
Just from everyone's money that is guaranteed to spend.
Right.
Right? Or guaranteed to
Yeah.
sit there. And guess what they do? Because it's $3 billion, they make an interest rate off that and they float it, right?
I bet,
So like
yeah.
they're playing the game at a different
It's
level.
amazing. When I heard
Yeah.
about that, I was like, wow, genius.
And
you
think
know?
about this now, Starbucks itself, it's about 58% of all transactions are done through the app.
Wow.
So more than in store. And for me, like I use the Starbucks app. Well, why do I use it? Well, because I don't want to stand in the line. I go to the airport a lot. I just grab it and go. Right. So it's a convenience thing, but they're already guaranteeing my spend because I have to upload $25 for $4 coffee. Right. So there's a lot of really interesting ways to financially engineer things. And in this space, like the wellness bank and beauty bank, it's like you see it a lot in the aesthetic side of things. You don't see it so much in the wellness side. I guarantee you it's going to be coming because it just makes sense.
The thing is like when you think about business, especially being in the wellness space and the aesthetic space, you can't just think about what you're doing on a medical standpoint. Like you got to get creative with the things that you're talking about right now.
Yep.
This is what will either make or break your business in a lot of cases.
Of course, yeah.
So let me ask you this. So what are some surprising consumer behaviors that you've noticed when rolling out memberships?
Yeah, I mean, there's they spend a lot more, right? So 44% more spend on average, right? So if we look at a practice that has memberships and the cohort of patients that do, they're spending a lot more, right? The referral side is also insane, about 4x the amount of referrals. And think about that alone, right? On the referral side, buying a membership to a practice is a sign of loyalty. It's like the highest sign of loyalty you could imagine, right?
Right.
And so, by the way, that makes your business so much more valuable in terms of a multiple level, and we can get into that. But it's a huge sign of loyalty. Lifetime value explodes, about 96% increase of lifetime value. But also 4 times the amount of referrals. Well, why? Well, if I'm a member, it's a sign of loyalty, and we are communal beings. Like, we like to bring our friends into the shit that we like.
Right.
Right. So if I'm buying a membership to this place, I tend to want to bring in my friend, or at least show my friend like the place that I go to. So we make that really easy. Right. So we make it easy by being a member, but then doing the events as a compounding effect, because all you need to do is give them an excuse now to actually come. So you can do, hey, bring a friend, and that friend gets their first treatment for free. Why do you think Lifetime gives out passes? Right? Lifetime Fitness. Why do you think? Right? It's because I got a workout buddy. I want to show my facility. And now they go, and what happens?
They sign up.
They sign up.
Yeah.
Well, hey guys, Lifetime is an incredible business. It's a multi-billion-dollar enterprise.
Right.
Let's start doing things that the billion-dollar enterprises do, right? And so those are a few. On a consumer standpoint as well, it's interesting. Once they buy a membership and once they start referring, then also the buy now, pay later financing piece, right? We have members coming in more often. So instead of 3 times a year, 6 to 8 times a year, they're bringing friends, etc. But now they're making bigger purchases as well, right? Because when, for example, why you don't buy an event ticket at the gate anymore? You know how you be able to buy a concert ticket
Right.
at the gate?
Why is
Because
that?
if you buy it in advance, the consumer psychology is you've already paid for that in months in advance.
Right.
And so what they saw is this dramatic lift in spend on concessions if you don't have to buy the ticket in advance, or if you don't buy the ticket the day of.
The day of.
Right? Because if you buy a ticket the day of, your likelihood of buying concessions goes down dramatically. And so in their space, about 60% increase, right? So it's like, if I get you to buy tickets months in advance and you come into the gate, where do they make most of their money? Concessions.
Right.
And you spend so much more in concessions if you don't have to buy the ticket at the same time. And so if you're buying memberships and you're coming in with no payment, right? You come in, your ability to upsell or cross-sell that patient goes up a lot.
Man, I did not know that about the stadiums and the concerts.
Yeah.
That's actually pretty cool.
Yeah.
I mean, now you got my wheels turning. It's dangerous hearing a guy like you say that information to me, who's an entrepreneur at heart, because my wheels just start turning. Like I'm literally creating a business plan in my head while we're talking.
Well, a lot of life, a lot of business is saying like, well, why do other businesses operate the way they do?
Right.
And if they do it successfully, is there anything that I can model? We talked about Starbucks. We talked about Lifetime, right? We're talking about Live Nation.
Yeah.
We're talking about businesses that have been around for a while or are booming right
Right,
now,
right.
right? And most small businesses aren't, right? 87% of small businesses don't sell when they put a for sale sign up,
Right. Yeah.
right? Well, why is that? Because I can't buy a business that's not predictable. I can't buy a business that doesn't have, increasing cash flow or doesn't grow or expenses aren't managed, right? And so we have to borrow some of the tactics, the big players are using.
Yeah, no, that's important. So one of the things that you mentioned, you brought up lifetime value, the LTV,
Yeah.
which I think it's important for the business owners that are tuning into the podcast to really understand the importance of understanding that data.
Yeah.
Right. And we all do all kinds of different type of marketing. Some people utilize Groupon. Some people utilize, doing ad campaigns on social media. But, for me, one of the things that are extremely important is understanding, number one, what is your new customer acquisition price, right? Where's that customer coming from? And then tracking that customer, right, from wherever they came from for 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, a year, 2 years,
Right.
and really understand what the lifetime value is. And part of that, and I want you to chime in on the importance of lifetime value, because one of the things that we do at Liquid Vita is at the end of the year, I want to see that person who has that 12-month lifetime value, right? Because what I want to do is whoever has the highest lifetime value, I want to go ahead and take the top 20 to 30% of the highest lifetime value and figure out where those people came from,
Right.
create lookalike audience,
Yeah.
and target people that look like that top 20 to 30%
Right.
of the top lifetime value. So I want you to kind of dive a little bit deeper into the
Right.
importance of lifetime value and people understanding that data for their business.
and that's why I've been so successful, right? As a small business owner, you might not even know what lifetime value is. The fact that you're doing cohort data and lookalike audiences for that is no secret why like you've been as successful as you are. And it's like the saying, success leaves clues, right? And so lifetime value, software companies, all the most profitable, the biggest companies all obsess over customer acquisition costs, CAC. How much does it cost to acquire a single customer and the lifetime value of that customer? And so if you don't know what lifetime value is, it's like a cohort of how much does a person spend per year extrapolated to how many years they'll do business with you. So if a patient, for example, spends $2,000 with you in a given year, and you have that patient for 12 years, 2,000 times 12 is 24,000. That patient's worth 24,000. So one major unlock on lifetime value, and you can look online for lifetime value calculators. One major unlock is how much am I willing to spend to acquire that patient?
Right.
Well, if I know an average patient's worth 5,000, then I might not be able to spend 5,000 to acquire them, right? Because you're not making any money. But if a patient's worth 20,000 and you're spending $500 to acquire them, well, how many times would you make the trade in business that I pay 500 and I get 25 or $20,000 back?
Yeah, all day.
All day, right? But you have to know your numbers. And I'll say this about lifetime value just in general is a patient that's on a membership is worth more because lifetime value is all driven by, getting new customers, getting them to spend money, how much are they spending, and at the frequency that they're spending it at.
Right.
So it's even okay that a patient spends less, but if they come in more often, then you'll make more.
Right.
So frequency of visit and the purchase size, the transaction are the greatest drivers, right? And so memberships really increases the frequency, which increases lifetime value. And one of the secrets in this space for lifetime value that I think people really don't look at is the age of their consumer. Because one of the greatest predictors of lifetime value is the age of your demographic.
What do you mean by age? Like that?
How old are they when they start?
How old are they? Not like how long they've been with you.
Yeah. So how long they've been with you is one of the most important because that's what like is driving your lifetime value. Do you and just for the audience at home on that is like if a patient only comes once and never comes back again, your lifetime value is 1, right? It's like 1 month, 1 visit. But if they come in often, then you can say, well, if they're coming in this often for this long, then this is how many years. But also age is really important. And so, and what do I mean by age? So if your average demographic is 45, 50, or 60, your lifetime value is going to be a lot less than if you're attracting someone in their like early 20s, mid 20s, or early 30s, right? Because they can do business with you at a longer time horizon. And so I would say one of the strategies on lifetime value as well is to make sure that you're marketing, that you're also bringing the youngest demographic you can, whatever makes sense to your business. Because if you can get their loyalty early and they can do business with you, especially in wellness and longevity, it's a lifetime commitment.
Right.
If you can be that brand that's hot and modern and gets like younger people to come into it, well, then your business, even in terms of a valuation perspective, like you're going to sell your business, is worth a lot more if you can showcase that you have a wide range of consumers from wide range of ages, right?
Yeah.
Because if everyone's a certain age group, you're like, okay, well, what happens when they age out, right? If you can have a wide range. So I would just say, like, make sure when you're marketing, you're focusing not just on one core, it's ICP in marketing terms, not just one ICP, but it's better to like create personas. How do I influence and attract these 20-year-olds? How do I influence and attract these 30-year-olds and 40-year-olds and 50-year-olds and have marketing based off of those personas more than my customer is a 45-year-old housewife, right? Or whatever it is.
Yeah. And the bigger companies in the aesthetics industry, they have a whole division that's focused on the younger generation.
Right.
I know Allergan, they're working with their corporate team members and whatnot. They had a whole thing, I believe it was called Future Core, right?
Yeah.
Literally,
that
like,
speaks for itself.
They're marketing to like high school kids, right? The high school kids are not getting the services, but they're already programming them. So by the time they hit 18, 21, they're getting the lips done, they're getting the baby Botox.
Yep.
So as a business, it's always important to kind of understand, hey, where's the next wave of customers? Where's it going to come from?
Yeah. And right now, it's obviously peptides in the wellness industry.
Right.
It's like, that is the thing. And if you're not promoting it, actively engaging with it, understanding that community, educating it on it through social, you're going to miss that wave.
Right.
And, again, we talked about another major brand, Ali or Allergan. They have the Ali app.
Right.
And to your point, they're already marketing that younger consumer. Why? Well, I don't know. Allergan's a $50 billion company. Again, we're looking at successful companies and reverse engineering what they're doing.
Right.
The lesson, okay, I need to have something modern and I need to be engaging younger consumers so I can get them attracted to my business so my business stands not only of extreme value, but the test of time, right?
Right.
Because things change.
Yep. So you mentioned two different things in earlier conversations. You talked about memberships and you also talked about financing.
Mhm.
So which one is more important?
So I think it really depends on your practice. One of my core beliefs, if you believe that your mission is to transform patients' lives, and you identify with the mission of like the reason why I'm here and the reason why I do what I do is to transform patients' lives, right? Then you should never let money be the reason why a patient can't get the transformation, right? So I'm not saying lower your cost to the point you're not making money. What I'm saying is if a patient wants to come in and that treatment plan, maybe it's stem cells or something, like that treatment plan is $4,000. Okay. Not everyone has $4,000 to just spend.
Right.
Right. And even worse, a lot of people, they feel guilty about spending that money on themselves. Okay. Well, so what can I do? Offer all the tools and strategies that I could possibly have for that patient to make it affordable. So in my view, the affordability is in two ways. You can do the beauty bank or wellness bank, like I said, where they're saving $200 a month.
Right.
And there's no financing there. There's no interest rate. It's all good, right? They're doing that. Or you find a great financing option. So that $4,000 treatment is only a few $100s a month for them across 24 months or 36 months, whatever's affordable for them. I believe that it's your responsibility to give your patients that level of affordability and access, not only as a business person, because it's good for business, because it absolutely is,
Right.
but also because a patient, like if they're in need of a service, you need to help them.
Yeah.
Right. And so I think it's a responsibility thing, and the tools are out there to do it. So it's like, do it.
Yeah. I agree with that. So what is the secret sauce? Let's say I'm a brand new business, right? And I want to launch memberships.
Yep.
What's the secret sauce to really get this thing to scale?
It's a great question. So I would say a few things are secret sauce. Number one, simplicity, right? It's like choose 1, 2, maybe 3 memberships, but don't go hog wild and have 4 or 6 and make them confusing and all these things. Like better start with 1 or 2 and start with that. The next thing is they have to be valuable. They can't be this weird, like, we're going to screw my consumer over psychology. They have to be like, people would be crazy not to do this membership. It's incredibly valuable, right? So it's like, we make it simple. We make it valuable, right? We make perks and benefits. So people are like, man, this is awesome. Like, I'm really a VIP. You do a membership launch party, right? Launch the damn thing, like make it awesome, make it exciting, make it VIP, have some Dom Perignon, have the red carpet, make it something special, right? Because if no one's excited about it, like, why would, like, if you're not excited about it, they're not gonna be excited about it, no one's gonna be excited about it. Incentivize your staff to sell it, right? Talk about it all the time. Here's an incentive, how to incentivize your staff really easily. Do a raffle once a month, okay? We sell 20 memberships, we do a raffle. Every month that we do it, the raffle prize gets bigger. Okay, you can start with $100 gift card. We sell 20 this month, we'll raffle $100 gift cards so everyone's involved. And it's a team thing, where it's not Samantha sold 20, it's we sold 20. Right? Okay, we unlock that prize. Let's unlock the next prize. At the end of the year, might be giving a cruise trip away, whatever. But like, it's important to incentivize your staff. And the final piece is exactly that. It's like you have to market it, you have to talk about it. You're not going to have people fall out of the sky that buy a membership to your business. You have to make it a core part of your business. Your business has to be a membership model based business, not where all you do is sell memberships, but it's very clear and apparent. And the final hack, and I think this is one of the most important hacks in memberships, is before someone checks out, right? Right before someone checks out, show them what they could have paid if they sign up for a membership. Right there.
Make them feel it.
Yeah, it's like, hey, this thing, $2,000, $200, whatever it is if you enjoyed your service, yes, yeah, I loved it, blah blah, especially if they're complimenting how great everything was, you're like, hey, if you joined this membership, you'd actually be saving 20%. We'll take off this, right? And for you, extrapolated coming 3, 4, 5 times a year, this is what you'd be saving. And not only that, you get invited to our parties, or not only that, you get all these other perks, you get better pricing. Right at point of checkout, just add a little bit of friction and let people visually, that's the key, not words, but visually see what they're going to save.
Right.
And that can help right there.
Wow. Wow. What about with staffing? Do you feel like a new business that's launching memberships, they need like a director of memberships or someone who's like responsible for the memberships?
I think it's a more staff buy-in thing that you have to get everyone involved, right? So it's not reliant on one single solo person. But I think that's an interesting idea for sure, to have someone key responsibility. But again, like, your staff should be really excited about the membership program because they're like, this thing is awesome, it's valuable, and it's fun. And they should be rewarded for it in any way that you can.
Absolutely. All right. So AI in business.
Mm-hmm.
Is it a hype, or is it a real edge for like consumer retention?
So,
because I know you like AI.
Yeah,
you've already talked about it briefly.
I'm in tech. I gotta like AI. I'd be out of a job.
It's
So
not. You're gonna be left behind, right?
Yeah. So I use it in my everyday life for the things that I use it for. But in terms of your question, like consumer, right? I call it the billionaire framework. Okay. So here's the billionaire framework. The billionaire framework is simple. If you were, this billionaire, you would have unlimited access and you would have extreme personalization. So for example, anything that you wanted, especially on the health side, you would have a concierge team, and they would have already like found the right people, found the right services, know all your preferences, and it would be completely customized to you. Right, to you specifically. Not you walk into a practice and like you have an appointment, no one really knows who you are. It would feel like, wow, this thing is highly concierge.
Wow.
And so that is what AI will be able to do for people on a consumer perspective.
Wow.
Is you don't have to be a billionaire. Everything is going to be hyper personalized to you, your purchases, your preferences, your ideas, what you've clicked on, but like to the point of everything, right? And so that's what AI can do on a consumer perspective, is when you walk into a practice, individualized to the point that they already know and they're educated. And a lot of people have been here long enough in the space to understand what WebMD did, which is like everyone started diagnosing themselves, and it became a real problem for people. What the hell do you think is going to happen with AI?
Oh, dude,
they're gonna have all the access, all the pricing. They're gonna believe it. Like with WebMD, like at the end of the day, the end result was always you had cancer, you're gonna die, right? Like anytime you looked at WebMD. With AI, they're gonna think with their plan that this thing is smarter than you, right? They're gonna be like, nope, this is what it says, and AI is all knowing, like you're wrong, and that's gonna be a real problem. And so the question is more along the lines of how do you make it a beautiful, friendly experience for your patient to lean into that versus what's going to come, which is everyone's going to diagnose themselves and like tell you like that they know more when you're the one who's the practitioner.
Right.
So for example, for RepeatMD, what we have is AI treatment advisors. So right when the patient goes on the app, they put on their preferences, the things that they like, we track what they buy, what they look at, etc. And you can choose between Adonis or Aria. Adonis, the male version, Aria, the female version. And Adonis, for example, will actually put things like a cart for you, or not a cart, but like how Netflix, it's like movies that we think you'll like. You watch a war movie.
Yeah.
So Adonis will pull things that like Phil might like.
Okay.
Right? Based off of my feedback. And then I can chat with them and say, hey, for example, I only want to do something natural. I've got this shoulder injury. What could we do? And Adonis is completely trained on your catalog to find the treatment, ask questions, and recommend a treatment.
Oh, wow.
Right? And I would say a lot of it's discovery, where it helps the patient like understand your services more.
Right.
But when am I doing this? At 10 p.m. at night. Right? I'm talking to Adonis because I'm thinking about, oh, hey, what about this? And it's like, oh, yeah, this is the treatment that could help you with that. I'm like, oh, okay. Well, based on this, like, how does that match with that? And it's like, oh, well, based on what you're doing and based off this service, yeah, you would love this, or no, maybe something different. So a real example for me, Adonis actually sold me on my practice that I go to, there's a RepeatMD client. Dr. Groban in Youthology in New York, and I've never gotten Botox before. And I still haven't, but I did end up buying it because I said like, hey, I want a natural treatment, but ironically, I don't know much about it. Like a neurotoxin in my body, how am I going to react? And Adonis is like training me on it, right? Like teaching me about what it is and where it comes from. And I'm like, okay, that's not that bad. And so I'm talking to Adonis, etc. And then about a week later, Youthology does a Labor Day sale. And so I was like, hey, how many units should I get? And so it tells me how many units that like is safe to get. That's like a conservative amount, but like, roughly. So what happens? I end up buying it. Right? I end up buying it because he educated me on it. I was like, okay, my guard was down. It's not as bad as I thought that it was. Like, okay, I understand that because I was like, what are the long-term benefits of this and that? So I'm having this conversation. 2 weeks later, he does a sale. I buy the Botox, and now in about 2 weeks, I'm going to see him.
Nice.
Right? But think about this. How much time did that save that team?
Oh yeah, tremendous.
But that's the beauty of it. I got the information that I wanted, and it was good information. Adonis is trained on the catalog. They saved a lot of time, right? Especially you launch a peptide program, you're going to get a lot of questions.
Oh yeah.
All the time.
Oh yeah.
So why don't you give out your phone number so everyone can text you, right? That's what happens every day. Yeah. You give out your phone number and you have 200 patients or 20 patients or 2 patients texting you.
You can't even catch up.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's what it can save.
So,
it can give you a better patient experience, and it can save you a lot of time, and yes, it can also make you money.
Guys, listen to what Phil is saying here. You have to get yourself the Adonis. The Adonis midnight third shift sales rep. I'm telling you, that is like, who doesn't want that? Yeah. If you're a business owner, get yourself the Adonis.
Yeah.
It's like he's working for you at night. That's amazing, man. That is the power of AI that people have to really start looking into and utilizing it.
Let it be your greatest ally, not like the greatest villain you've had.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I agree. Phil, Black Friday's going to be coming up. Black Friday.
Yeah.
Everybody wants to sell. Everyone wants to compete.
Right.
People are spending money. Day after Thanksgiving. People are in that holiday spirit. What do you do for Black Friday? What do businesses, med spas, wellness centers need to do for Black Friday? Because most people don't think about like, oh, people are not going to go ahead and put a tent and camped out in front of my med spa.
Well, those days are long over.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
It's like people are looking more at like Cyber Monday and stuff. But that weekend, what do we got?
So Black Friday, Cyber Monday, obviously I'm super biased because we all of our practices run promotions during that time. And so you really need to lean into it. But I think one of the biggest points of confusion is like, when should I start? Right? Because Black Friday used to be Black Friday.
Right.
Now is it like Black Friday month? Is it Black Friday year?
Yeah.
Like you don't know what it is anymore. It's like, and so what we found from our data is if you start from the Monday of Black Friday as a pre-Black Friday sale into Black Friday, then you have, that Sunday where you take off the Cyber Monday and then last chance. That is the right window. So it's about a 9-day window. Okay. So you should start on that Monday as, to warm it up. Pre-Black Friday sale, you're going to get some sales there. You're going to get a lot of sales actually. Lead into Black Friday. Then take that Sunday, and I'm talking about like on a promotional calendar, take that Sunday a little bit off, and then Cyber Monday hard. And the biggest sales day is the Tuesday after Cyber Monday.
Really?
And the reason why that is because it's a last chance sell. Because you have this huge cohort of patients who are like, oh, I'll get to it. But you want to play that Monday as ends at midnight. And then on Tuesday, okay, last chance. Tuesday, boom. And that in our data has always been the number one day, right? It's Black Friday in the third spot, Cyber Monday in the second spot, and the day after Cyber Monday in the first.
Wow. So I guess your marketing has to be on point with like the messaging.
You got to do an omni-channel approach. And so omni-channel means social, email, text. You got to make it a big deal.
You got to be in their face.
Yeah. It's like we as consumers expect it. So if you're not doing it, you're completely like irrelevant. Like no one's going to, you gotta be to the point where, it feels like a lot to you. You have to ask yourself the question of like, are we doing too much? Like, are we texting too much? Are we emailing too much? Are we posting on Instagram too much about this? If you feel that, then you're just barely doing enough.
That's interesting you bring that up, man, because a lot of people in business, I talk to a lot of business owners. It's like, oh, I really don't want to harass people. I don't want people to opt out.
Right.
This, that. So like, How do you what would you tell these individuals, these business
Yeah.
owners, on how to overcome that type of mindset?
How many emails can you remember from yesterday?
No, not much. Yeah.
That's
Right.
the point.
Yeah.
We're not nearly as relevant or noisy as we think. And I guarantee you've got 100 plus emails, probably half of them worth of shit and the other half promotional, right? And it's like, that's the thing. If you just like take it like on a perspective of news cycles, like you remember that plane that disappeared over Malaysia? Remember that
Right,
whole
right,
crazy
right.
thing?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. After 3 weeks, like it's like it didn't exist.
Right.
Right? So it's like there's so much volume that your little pipsqueak volume, like the little things that you do, are not nearly as noisy as you think. You're only conscious of them.
Right.
You're conscious of them because you're doing the action. You're not on the receiving end. And so I think the sobering thing is like, listen, like business is a game of attention, right? Why is Kylie Jenner a billionaire? Because she owns the most amount of attention, right?
Right.
She's not, what are her cosmetics? You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
do we think Kylie Jenner is like got all of the answers
Right.
figured out cosmetics? Like, no, she just has the most attention.
Right.
And so in business, you're fighting for attention all the time.
Yeah.
And it's like, listen, get the attention. I'd rather have an opt out than no one ever seeing the thing. And so pump up the volume so you can get the attention.
Absolutely. Yeah. No, I see that. Phil, from an investor's lenses, right? When we start talking about the memberships,
Right.
the subscriptions, and you're growing your business, and one day, as I always say, you know, my business mentor would always tell me, it's like, hey, a business plan without an exit strategy is an incomplete business plan. So you as a business owner
Right.
should have a planned exit strategy. What does subscriptions, memberships, how does that feed into that potential exit of the business?
So I love the question because I think about it often. I think one of the most important things you can do as a business owner is step outside of yourself and put on the investor frame, the investor hat. Okay. So if you can take yourself outside of your business and put the investor hat on, you have to ask yourself, what would make me want to buy this business? Or better yet, this business, practice A, business A versus business B are for sale. Which one do I want? Well, would you want one that has predictable revenue? Yes or no?
Yeah,
Right? So you would want one that has income coming in every single month.
absolutely.
So you want that. Would you want one where you knew that a percent of their base comes in 8 to 10 times per year?
Yeah,
Right? So
Yeah.
you would want that, right? You would want people to come in 8 to 10 times a year, not 2-3 times a year, right? And would you want to see that cohort or just that general cohort have lookalike audiences of bringing their friends, family, etc.?
yeah,
Right? And the reality of that is a predictable business is a viable business.
Yeah.
Right. And sometimes people really get it wrong where they're like, you know, I have to be, you know, a celebrity of my local business or my local town and et cetera, et cetera. And it's like, well, here's the thing about that. Do you come with the business? Right? Like at some point you have to ask yourself, like, what is the most important thing? Well, the most important thing is that I have a business that can actually do the work without me.
right.
And I'm not saying memberships does that completely, but what I am saying is membership starts giving you the leverage where that's possible.
Yeah, yeah. And I can see that. And as you're talking, I'm over here thinking like, you know, some of the different businesses in the IV hydration space, you know, you got some of the ones like in Las Vegas where all they do is focus on hangovers,
Right.
right? Then you got the other ones that focus more on wellness where people are coming in on a consistent basis.
Right.
They're getting memberships. The hangover ones like in Vegas, when is the next time that customer's coming in?
Maybe never.
Right.
If Vegas has a bad quarter, they're gonna have a bad quarter.
Right.
Right.
So you know, for me, it's just like you start thinking about it. Some of these businesses, like in Vegas, they make a lot of money.
Right.
But is that a business that's easy to sell to somebody
Right.
else to take over it? And you know, even like thinking about my buddies that are in real estate that do a lot of real estate stuff. The guys that are buying houses, fixing them up, and then selling them and making, you know, 30, 40 grand versus the real estate investors that buy, you know, multifamily unit real estate properties and they have it all fully rented out.
Right.
Or the ones that have the commercial properties that have people locked in with personal guarantees and 10-year lease agreements and everything else. Those things have tremendous value.
If you
Or
think
even,
about
you
that's
know?
a subscription within itself, a
Right.
lease.
Right.
right? Yeah,
Yeah.
that's actually a great point.
Yeah. So, from an investor lenses, do you think the business has a higher multiple
Oh
when
yeah,
you're on the subscription side?
yeah. So the multiple side is the most exciting part. So your business is valued, when you're selling your business, it's valued on a forward multiple, right? And so typical businesses are valued off of EBITDA, which call it like net profit times 4 or 6 times, right? So for example, if you net $200,000 a year and you get 4 times earnings, you have an $800,000 business, right? Where someone will buy $800,000. And when it comes to small business, it's really hard to sell for a multiple more than 4 times. Sometimes people do 6. If it's a bigger business, sometimes they do 8 or more. But like if you're a one location, you get 4 times and you're leasing your business, like that's a good deal for you. And so that's just like a regular business. Now, if your business has a brand, if your business has memberships, you get a whole different valuation pool, right? So you get your regular one-time sale business, just the transactions like the Vegas store, right? It's like 4 times or 6 times of that. But then on the membership side, you get a forward multiple on the top line revenue, not on the bottom revenue, right? So for example, 200,000, right, of EBITDA times 4 is 800,000. But if I do $100,000 in membership sales or 500,000 membership sales, I don't take the profit of that. I multiply the top line by a number. So 6 times, 8 times, 10 times. And so ultimately what it
Wow.
means is a business with memberships, especially like, 20,000 or more a month in memberships, is not only more valuable, not only more profitable, not only all of those things, but it's A, buyable, and B, worth most of the time at least double, at least 2 times.
Wow.
Right. And so the business that I'm in the software business, we only trade off of forward multiples, right? So an AI software business, you'll shit yourself, like actually anywhere between 50 to 100 times forward multiple.
Wow.
So if you're doing 2 million, right, in top line, your business is worth 200 million.
That's crazy. Wow.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's like
Sign me
yeah,
up.
yeah. So but yeah, subscription models, if you ever wonder like why is Netflix worth so much? I mean, all these things, they're trading off forward multiples off their top line, not their profitability. Right. And so in small business world, I would just say not only are you buyable, like someone could buy your business, but number 2, you'd be worth twice as much. And you don't, at the end of the game where you're like, hey, you know what? I'm retiring. You don't want to be sitting on nothing, right? Because then all you did is basically have the most stressful job there is, which is be a business owner.
Yeah. Yeah. When it comes to loyalty programs, what type of connection do you see when it comes to the customer having that emotional connection to the brand when it comes to loyalty programs?
Like loyalty programs and referral programs are often like really overlooked by small businesses.
Right.
Because you just do whatever your EMR has or whatever Square has or whatever you're using, and it's like that's nothing. Have you just think about it like this? Have you ever purchased from Square or an EMR or whatever, and you're like, oh my God, what an incredible loyalty experience? It said I get 20 points back. Do you even care about the 20 points?
Right.
Like you ever bought something, they're like, you get 15 points. And you're like, I don't give a shit.
I don't even know what it equates to.
Like,
after
I
that.
don't care. I get 15 points. Who gives a shit, right? And so it's like, okay, well, don't do that. Because every biggest brand you've ever considered has a robust loyalty program. United Airlines, the loyalty, and you can Google this, the loyalty program of United Airlines or Delta is worth more than the entire airline.
Wow.
Okay, so like when it comes in terms of brand equity value. And so it's like, okay, loyalty programs work at a super high level. You have all of the biggest brands in the world that have infinite money that they all go all in on their loyalty program, not partially in, but all in. You walk into Starbucks, there's 18 signs talking about Starbucks rewards, Starbucks rewards. And so you can't just be given like the crumbs of loyalty, which is, here's 10 points back. Instead, on the consumer behavior part, you want to make them feel something. So, a company like RepeatMD to services, treatments, and offer, but you don't have to do that. What you can do is you can do your own loyalty program if that's what you want. But I would just say it needs to be immediately valuable,
Right.
right? Because there's this chasm, right? And you can look it up on consumer behavior that after the third visit, you get what's called a lifetime patient. Okay, so if you see a patient, think about from your operating experience. If you saw a patient 3 times in 6 months, what's the chance you see them a 4th time?
Yeah.
What's the chance? So how do we guarantee from the first visit, how do we guarantee you come back the second time?
Right.
And when you come back second time, how do I guarantee you come back the third time? Right? How odd is it that if someone comes 3 times that they just fall off the face of the map, right? Like how often does it happen where a person comes in, tries your service, and then you don't really know like what happened, where they like you just don't know.
Right.
And a lot of people don't even track that. And so you actually don't know, and you just remember the 10 faces you see all over again.
Right.
But from the first visit to the third visit is where all the juice is. And so it's like, how do we guarantee the second visit? Well, if I give you an offer that's compelling, probably we'll see you second time.
Right.
And when you come the second time, what can I do to get you the third time? And then after the third time,
They're pretty much on the hook.
they're on the hook.
Yeah. I love
Right.
that.
And so
Yeah.
it's just systematically growing your business.
Yeah. How does company culture have an impact with all of this stuff we've been talking about today?
What do you mean by company culture? In what way?
The
We've got a lot of takes on company
Yeah.
culture. So I'm curious what you
well,
mean.
well, you know, I guess first is it depends what you think company culture is.
Yeah.
You know, and I used to actually think this is an interesting topic, and I wasn't planning on going here, but I used to think company culture was developed from the owners itself,
Mhm.
which I actually learned from a book that I read. It's called For the Culture by Marcus Collins. He's a PhD in marketing. He was actually Jay-Z's and Beyonce's digital strategist
Oh,
for
really?
over a decade.
Wow.
And he worked on big projects. So Peloton when they had their issues, Sprite, with the Kardashians, all kinds of stuff. And he talks about how to create true company culture and what the company culture should be. So in my opinion, based off of what I've learned from Marcus Collins, the culture of the company is not developed by the owners of the company. It's actually developed by the customers. The customers create what the culture of the company is. So, like if I'm selling a service or a product to nothing but, let's say, military or first responders, the culture has to fit that, right? I can't have a culture of, of prima donnas and
that's
serving the
interesting. Yeah.
military.
Yeah. Okay.
So for me, my question to you is talking about the culture that your company has and that develops. How does it feed into like the loyalty programs and memberships and everything else? Is that something that people need to make part of that process? Is it an important part of that process?
Yeah, it's so interesting. That was a great take, by the way. Was so interesting as I was thinking about my hospitality days. I'll get back to our company today, but back in my hospitality days. And when you're in the hospitality business, that's 100% right. Is like what you're looking to do is you're looking to mirror your clients, right? So it's like what they want, right? And so when you think about that, that's a certain like look or feel, right? So for example, the classic brand Hooters, for example, they had like an exact identity of the person that they wanted for Hooters, and then like agree with them or don't agree with them, I don't care, but it's just like this is what they wanted. They did that, they produced that, it produced a certain culture. They became super successful, and now Hooters like completely lost their way in the last 10 years, and that company's gone bankrupt. You remember the Hooters back in the day was like one of the most iconic brands ever in hospitality. So they're a great representation of that. And I think a lot of times brands like don't actually care about that. They don't think about who the employees are and who that employee might be attracting or detracting. Right. And so when you said that, that was like a light bulb for me because we were really conscious of that when we were hiring our employees in hospitality. And we're really conscious of that now. And that's why I love the point at RepeatMD. So at RepeatMD, we have 3 values. And one of our values is get higher on your own supply. Right. And so, and what that means to us is you have to either be from a small business background or passionate about small businesses. And that's one of the things we interview on. And not only small businesses, but you have to physically and actively be involved in med spa, longevity, fitness, aesthetics, all of it, wellness, to be an employee of the company. Whether you're an engineer, whether you're a client success, whether you're a salesperson. So you have to be an active participant in aesthetics and wellness, and you have to genuinely care about small businesses, right? Because when that person's on the phone, and exactly to your point, they're not on the phone with me.
Right.
And like if you're a business owner, unless you live in the damn place, which some people do, right? Like they feel like they live there, then at the end of the day, it's Sandra or Billy or whoever it is that's really representing your culture.
Yeah.
And I think that was an excellent point, and actually something for me to reflect on. But one of our values, get high your own supply, is a big part of that.
Yeah, and I love that too, man. It's I've always said it's like if you got a weight loss business, you can't have fat employees.
Yeah,
You know?
right. Like,
Call it whatever it is, and
looks like or
right.
you're selling hair and you're bald.
Yeah,
It's like, hey,
right.
it don't work for you. I want the guy with hair down the shoulders.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So cool, man. So what we're gonna do now, man? We're gonna have a little fun. So one of my favorite podcasters is Stephen Bartlett, The Diary of a CEO, and he came out with these conversation cards.
Mhm.
So I want you to grab it.
Okay.
You can open it up, shuffle it, do whatever you want.
I love Diary of CEO as well.
Yeah, he's amazing.
Just grab a card.
Yeah, just grab a card.
All right.
Grab 2 cards.
2 cards.
And then you're gonna read it out loud and
Okay.
answer the question.
I answer or you answer?
No, you answer.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so the question is, when you're near the end of your life and looking back over it, what will you be proudest of, and what will you regret the most? My God, these are some heavy questions. So, I was talking about with a few team members and close friends about exceptionalism and what that means. And so I think one of the things that I would want to be the most proud of is that I lived a value of exceptionalism. And what that means to me is, did I really go, and there's a book it's called Turning Pro, and it talks about the difference of like amateurs and professionals. But like it's a whole book about it. And it's like, did I really go and just like churn the butter to the point where it was just like, man, this guy really was exceptional at what he was about.
Wow.
Whether it's his business or being a father, being husband, being an athlete, whatever it is, but like truly exceptional. And most people aren't exceptional at anything. They're just like kind of okay at everything.
Right.
And it's like, to be exceptional at something is like, it's an obsession of the art of it.
Right.
The art of it, not the outcome of it. Because like, I think exceptionalism is all on a degree of like you. Right. Like, it's like everyone has different levels of it. But for me, it's like, can I be at the end of my life and be like, man, I really, really did the most I could out of the gifts that I had.
Yeah.
Right. So that's the thing that I would want to be most proud of. On the regret side, I heard one of the people that I follow is Donald Miller, and he's a marketer. And he said something that always stuck with me. And he has a daughter, I have a daughter, and young daughter. I don't know how young his daughter is, but my daughter's 6. And he said, I want to make sure that my daughter doesn't ever think that I love the business more than her. And I thought about that. I was like, wow, like it gives me goosebumps as I think about it. And I think about like one of the biggest regrets that I could have is because I'm building a business right now. And there's a lot of times I'm here with you, came on the plane, I'm here, I have an event, all these things, and she's 6. And the reality of her being 6 is she's in this beautiful play state, right? Where it's just like, I'm her hero and all these things that are, amazing. And I think about like, man, she's not going to be 6 forever, right? My daughter's name's Zoe. She's going to be an adult and all those things. And it's like the one thing that I think about often is like, am I going to regret the times that I missed building my business, that I wasn't always there for Zoe?
Yeah.
And I think that's okay though. I think that it's okay. And I think that it's like makes me conscious of it. And so I regret not being present at times when I am building the business.
Yeah. That's a touchy subject, but as an entrepreneur, man, it's one thing I've learned early is there's certain things that you have to sacrifice.
Yeah, that it all comes. It does come with it. That's why I said it's okay.
You can't have both, right? And I learned that early on when I worked at the fire department. Because me taking that job to be that quote unquote hero, I would work on Christmas days.
Right.
Someone has to be available when they call 911. So it was tough. I missed a lot of different things, a lot of holidays with family and my nieces and nephews. But it's that's where you kind of like look at it and it's like, this is a sacrifice I'm doing to be able to provide for those individuals, or
Right.
how you're doing, growing the business
Yeah.
so she could go to the nice private school and have
Right.
college,
Yeah.
paid for and everything else. So, but it's something that definitely could be a regret, man.
Yeah.
What else you got? What's the other one?
All right, the second, but that first one was something. Oh my God, what are we doing here? Uh, how will you control your own greed?
Mm.
How will you control your own greed? My God, what is this? The Diary of Zia conversation cards. So I have an interesting relationship with greed because my dad was an entrepreneur for his whole life, and my dad was just given, like, my dad's in his 70s, just given the time that he grew up in, post World War II in Austria, which was like part of the epicenter of World War II. There was like, you know, the generation before that, they were burning the dollars because they were valueless. Like the currency like
Right.
inflated to the point where it didn't. So a lot of people had this really important relationship with money that they would do whatever it takes to make money, right? And we've been fortunate as like this generation. I talked to my team about this, that the word mental health wasn't even popularized till the 70s, right? And like all the other like mental health things now are like just brand new. So a lot of generations never really cared about, are you happy, or any of those things,
Right.
right? Who gave a shit if you're happy? Do you have food on the table, right? And a lot of people still in the world today, like, they obviously, that's a big part of their life. Long story short, my dad was always after the dollar, and he had all these businesses and all these things, and he never made it to the point that he thought he was going to make it,
Mm.
right? Because he was always chasing the dollar. It wasn't about value, it wasn't about happiness, it wasn't about taking care of your employees like their family. It was about making money, making money, making money. And it's like that old adage of like, people want what they can't have, and they chase things that run away from them. And it always felt to me like that thing of him making it, that number for him making it, he never achieved it because it was always something he chased.
Mm.
And he always ran away from him because it wasn't like, the intention wasn't the right intention. And keep in mind,
Right.
I think there's plenty of people who made a shitload of money who didn't have the right intention.
Right.
But just for him, in my experience, is like he always chased the money, and he always made it and lost it, made it and lost it, but never really made it.
Right.
Right. And so for me, when I was a kid, and then I just started, I for sure immediately did the same thing. I went in and I had all these, especially an entrepreneur, and I'm sure you relate to this. I had all these businesses, like some of them were great, the other half were horrible. Like anything that I could try to make money is like, what's the thing that I can do, like the quick flip type of thing,
Right.
right? The sort of the hustle culture of that. And then I started realizing, like, you know what? Like I've got all the wrong ideas. How do I really create something that generates so much value for other people that they'll happily pay me? Like that they'll happily give me what I think I'm worth by helping them first.
Right.
And ever since I changed that, like my life has gotten dramatically better,
That's amazing.
right? Because I went narrower, I went much deeper on one single thing. I try to provide more value than I feel like that someone would happily pay me for, and I think that's been helpful. So I think greed in that case, like the relationship of it is really elusive. Is like I first was very greedy and I wanted to do everything I could to make money, and then I changed my approach and I was like, you know what? And really, Tony Robbins, going to so many damn Tony Robbins events that'll help like rewire my brain for this. And I was like, let me provide a lot of value, and if I provide extreme value, then I think I'm going to get an extreme result. And I would say for my life that's been true.
Amazing, man. The relationship with greed. So, Phil, man, as we wrap up here, we talked a lot today about subscriptions, memberships, customer loyalty, and everything that you're an expert in, and really helping people scale their business with what you do. If there's one person, one business owner, or anyone listening to the podcast who really resonates with today's message, what is that one thing that you can leave them off with?
I would say that as you're doing, I would say number one, end of year planning is really important, right? Thinking about your next year in advance, right? Because it gives you that like incredible sense of optimism. I love the end of the year and the beginning of the next year because you almost have this sense of optimism that it's like a new beginning. And when you're in that frame of a new beginning, put memberships and a membership strategy at the top of your list, whether you do it or not, but put it at the top of your list to investigate, like, what could you do to create a more predictable business? A business that's a system that cranks out a result versus completely built on you, right? Because I've been a small business owner for so long that it felt to me like the business was built off of me. And it felt very much that it was like, if I didn't show up, no one's showing up type of thing, right? It's just like, it felt like the weight of my business, and it's a small business, like weight on my shoulders of that. And it's like, if you're in this space, you have this really interesting opportunity that as a restaurateur I didn't have, because there's there's no memberships. I figured out a small way to do memberships in restaurants, but there's no real memberships in restaurants. You have this opportunity, the demand is there. All you have to do is like engage in it and create something. And if you do, on the other side of it, you have a more predictable business, you have a more valuable business, and most importantly, you start getting back some of that freedom that you deserve. Absolutely. And so that's what I would say.
Amazing, brother. Amazing. And if people want to find you, where can they find you?
LinkedIn or Instagram at Phil Sitter. Phil, Phil Sitter, Sitter.
Amazing. Which we'll include everything down below. Yeah. So, Phil, it was a pleasure having you on a Healthy Point of View podcast, brother. So I appreciate it. And God bless, bro.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for having me.
Amazing. Guys, you heard it from Phil. You got a plan. Start planning. Start planning for next year. He has the blueprint for helping you elevate your business, specifically when it comes to memberships, loyalty, subscriptions, all of that stuff. You don't have to figure it out all on your own. Check this guy out. Guys, make sure you share, like, subscribe, do all that fun stuff with this podcast, and we'll see you for the next one.